Hello everyone, I am Behzad Fatmi. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Hizmet movement under the Kemalist regime in Turkey. Although the Hizmet movement has been in existence since 1960s in Turkey, it came into limelight under the present Justice and Development Party government or the Erdogan regime, especially after the unsuccessful coup attempt in 2016. But before we move on to our discussion, if you are interested in Turkish affairs and you'd like to know more about the Hizmet movement, please do consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like my videos, please also click on the like button. And also, if you have some suggestions, feedback, or advice about the quality or content of my videos, please drop messages, your suggestions in the comment box. All right, moving to the topic of our discussion today, which is the Hizmet movement, also known as the Gulen movement under the staunchly secular Kemalist regime in Turkey. But before we talk about the objectives and activities of the Hizmet movement under the Kemalist regime, let's talk a little bit about the reasons why Hizmet movement became well known under the Justice and Development Party government, or the AKP government. Which the AKP has been in power. It came to power in 2002, and it came on the ticket of democracy and strengthening the rule of law. These were the promises of the AKP, and in its initial years, it did deliver on a lot of its promises. It undertook a lot of reforms, and because of which the Turkish economy also grew exponentially. Its economy was doing very well, at least for the first 7, 8, 9 years, and since the Turkish economy was growing, there was prosperity in the society too, and an enterprising social movement like the Hizmet movement. It also benefited from the situation in Turkey, and the businessmen affiliated with the Hizmet movement also increased their fortunes, and in turn they helped the movement grow internationally. Until 2000, the Hizmet movement was a nationwide educational movement with little presence in some countries, with some presence in the newly formed republics in the Central Asia. But after 2000, in the first decade of the 21st century, the Hizmet movement established hundreds of educational and dialogue institutions across the world, including in the West. So the situation, the prosperity in Turkey helped the Hizmet movement also to grow. And of course, as the movement grew, it became bigger with time. It also started getting recognition from different parts of the world, and a lot of people were already talking about it. The work it was doing in different parts of the world to promote education, dialogue, and charity relief work, all of them were being recognized and appreciated by a lot of governments and civil society in different parts of the world. But later on, when the AKP government started diverging from its original route of path of democracy and rule of law, the Hizmet movement also started making criticisms of the government, saying that since initially the government was doing well, the Hizmet movement was also supportive of it. It approved of some of its initial policies, but as the government started drifting away from democracy and rule of law, the movement also started criticizing it. And these criticisms, and for various other reasons, the Hizmet movement became a target of the government, of the Justice and Development Party government, and they then decided to eliminate the movement from Turkey, and also, if possible, from different parts of the world. In 2016, an unsuccessful coup attempt happened in Turkey, and the government blamed the Hizmet movement for orchestrating it, and also alleged that the leader of the Hizmet movement, Fatullah Gulen, masterminded the coup attempt without any evidence, of course. And so, as the Turkish government started targeting the movement within Turkey, and also started persecuting its members outside Turkey, a lot of people started discussing about it, and started researching about what the movement is, and all of a sudden we started seeing the Hizmet movement making headlines in different international media organizations, newspapers. So the Turkish government says that the Hizmet movement is a Western-backed, is an American-backed terrorist organization, which is up against a government which is Muslim, which is Islamic, and therefore it is trying to overthrow this government. So the charge of the AKP is that America doesn't want an Islamic government in Turkey, practicing a religious precedent in Turkey, and therefore it is using an organization like the Hizmet movement to overthrow it through a military coup. That's the narrative that the AKP has created. Now, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about the Hizmet movement under the Kemalist regime, because the Kemalist regime was something totally different from from the regime of today, which is the Erdogan regime. Under Kemalist regime, any form of religious expression in public was prohibited. The state, the Turkish state at that time, viewed religion as a regressive force, Islam as a regressive force, and therefore it wanted to eliminate it. And anybody who was religious, or who was a practicing Muslim, was discriminated against. And therefore, with this understanding of religion and democracy, the so-called the self-proclaimed guardian of secularism in Turkey overthrew 4 governments in Turkey. The first military coup happened in 1960, the second in 1971, the third in 1980, and the fourth in 1997. These military coups happened before the AKP came into power. Now, and the Turkish military overthrew governments because it thought that they were inclining towards religion, and again reviving religion in public space in Turkey, and therefore they did not want them, and they overthrew it. During this was the time when the Hizmet movement emerged. when Fatullah Gulen started a movement which was religiously inspired, which was Islamically inspired. And Fethullah Gulen started, as he started the movement. His idea was that a practicing Muslim can also be uh, a successful professional in this life. A practicing Muslim could also be a doctor, could also be a journalist, could also be a judge. He thought that a Muslim should not always go to court to stand in the witness box, but should also sit on the chair of the judge. He thought that a Muslim should not always visit hospital as a patient, but should also work there as a doctor. So that was Fethullah Gulen's understanding, and Fethullah Gulen believed that Islam is not a regressive force, it is rather a progressive force, and he thought that it is not a regressive force and it doesn't necessarily contradict the idea of democracy. And therefore, the Hizmet movement was persecuted and harassed, and its volunteers were harassed by the staunchly secular Kemalist regime. After each military coup, its leader, Fethullah Gulen, was harassed and detained multiple times. And in fact, in 1980, the leader of the movement, Fethullah Gulen, had to go in hiding because there was an arrest warrant against him. And likewise, after the 1997 coup, he was harassed, and there was a case opened against him in a court, and therefore he had to leave Turkey because of all this harassment. So for the AKP government to say today that the Hizmet movement is an anti-Islamic organization which wants to overthrow a Muslim organization in a Muslim government in Turkey is totally ridiculous. The Hizmet movement is a deeply Islamic organization which takes inspiration from Islam, and in its activities it does not discriminate against anybody. It serves according to the needs of the society, not according to the needs of the Muslim community alone. That's the thing. But while doing so, the Hizmet movement takes inspiration in Islam, from Islam. The Hizmet movement was persecuted for promoting the fundamental values of Islam. Its leader was harassed for teaching Quran, for giving religious sermons at mosques and at different places. So the charge that the Hizmet movement is an anti-Islamic organization is totally false and baseless. The Hizmet movement is critical of the AKP regime because the AKP regime has drifted away from democracy and rule of law. Initially, when it came to power, the AKP government delivered on a lot of its promises, and therefore the Hizmet movement was also supportive of it, and it appreciated it because Hizmet movement believes in democracy, it believes in rule of law, and it believes that these things are not incompatible to Islam. But when the AKP government started diverging from that path, the Hizmet movement started criticizing it. The Hizmet movement did not approve of the authoritarianism of the Erdogan regime, the AKP government, and therefore the AKP government decided that it now had to eliminate it. So the fact is, the AKP party came into existence in 2002, but the Hizmet movement has been in existence since at least 1960s. The movement has a long history, and in its history it has only tried to promote the fundamental values of Islam, an inclusive version of Islam, and it believes that that Islam and democracy are not incompatible, rather they are compatible. And for believing in such a thing, for having such a belief, the Hizmet movement was persecuted by, was harassed and oppressed by a staunchly secular Kemalist regime. By this staunchly secular Kemalist regime. So, had the Hizmet movement been anti-Islamic, it would have allied with the Kemalist regime. It would support the policies, the anti-Islamic policies of the Kemalist regime. It wouldn't go against it or do something that would bring the wrath of the Kemalist regime in Turkey to it. So, the charge of the AKP that the Hizmet movement is anti-Islamic is totally ridiculous. The Hizmet movement has a long history, and in its history, it has only promoted the fundamental values of Islam and an inclusive version of Islam. All right. So in this video, I very briefly wanted to talk about the Hizmet movement under the Kemalist regime, which for us to be able to understand that the charge of the AKP government that the Hizmet movement is an anti-Islamic organization is totally ridiculous and frivolous. I hope you will like this video. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please share it with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. Thank you so much.